For centuries, a silent plan has been moving through the hidden pages of history. A plan so precise, so calculated, that it has spanned empires, kings, and revolutions, without ever losing its course. Today, it is about to be completed. The final steps have already been taken. The alliances have been formed. And at the center of this chessboard, there is a clear target: to silence the only voice that still proclaims God's final truths to the world. Rome already knows that it cannot convince everyone to abandon the truth, so it will try to stifle it. But, what will happen when the final strategy is put into action, and only one people remains standing? Are you ready to learn Rome's 5 final steps to silence Adventists? If you want to stand firm when that moment comes, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell. That way, you become part of a network that keeps the truth alive and prevents this message from being erased. The pages of prophecy have never lied. Daniel had already seen a power rise up, unlike any other, that would speak against the Most High and persecute the saints of the Most High. John, in Revelation, described this same power, united with another, forming an alliance to deceive and compel everyone to follow their decrees. But there is an obstacle in the way: a people who carry a message that directly confronts this authority. The triple warning of Revelation 14, to announce judgment, call for worship of the Creator, and denounce the mark of the beast, is the only voice that Rome cannot allow to continue echoing. And that voice is that of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, spread across more than 200 countries, carrying the same message, with the same courage, since its birth. That is why Rome's latest moves are not against an idea, but against a people. Step 1. Control the narrative. Rome's first step in silencing Adventists is not to directly ban the message, but to change the way the world views those who preach it. The strategy is an old one: label, distort, and discredit. Instead of attacking the doctrine head-on, they shape public opinion so that the message is seen as fanaticism, radicalism, or even dangerous discourse. The media, social networks, and even influential institutions begin to plant the idea that preaching about the Sabbath, the imminent return of Christ, and divine judgment, is outdated and even harmful to global harmony. Thus, when the moment of true persecution arrives, many will already have been convinced that silencing Adventists is, in fact, protecting society. But what they don't realize is that every time they try to tarnish the image of God's people, the light of truth shines even brighter. Step 2. Isolate the messenger. After shaping public opinion against Adventists, the next step is to cut off the channels through which the message reaches the world. There will be no need to tear down temples or burn Bibles, just shut down access to the voice. Speech control and anti-misinformation laws will begin to be used as tools to restrict preaching. Channels will be banned, broadcasts blocked, content removed on charges of intolerance or violating guidelines. The digital pulpit, which today reaches millions, will be silenced, confining the message to increasingly smaller spaces. This isolation is not new. In the Middle Ages, Rome already restricted access to the Scriptures, prohibiting their translation and circulation. Now, history repeats itself, but with new tools. However, just as in the past, when the word was carried secretly by faithful men and women, in the future, every Adventist will be a living channel, and no algorithm will be able to silence the testimony that burns in their hearts. And you, how do you think Adventists should react when they try to silence their voice? Leave your opinion in the comments and participate in this discussion about faith, courage, and perseverance. Step 3. Infiltrate and weaken. Rome knows that the most effective attack comes not only from outside, but from within. If it is not possible to silence the voice of a faithful people, the strategy is to dilute their message until it loses its power. Infiltration begins subtly: ideas, interpretations, and practices that distance the church from its prophetic identity. The focus shifts from preaching eternal truths to pleasant messages centered only on well-being and social acceptance. The mission ceases to disturb the world, and begins to mold itself to it. Ellen White warned that before the end, there would be a great shaking, a separation between those who remain steadfast and those who are carried away by the wind of false doctrines. This is exactly what this step seeks to provoke, to weaken courage, undermine conviction, and transform a missionary church into a silent church. But history proves that the remnant always remains. Even if multitudes abandon the faith, there will be those who will rise up with greater fervor, boldly proclaiming, "Fear God and give Him glory, for the hour of His judgment has come." Step 4. Restrict religious freedom. Once public opinion is against Adventists and the prophetic voice within the church itself is weakened, the next step is to create laws that, under the guise of good, limit the freedom to worship according to conscience. It all begins with proposals that seem fair, protecting family rest, promoting social unity, or religious harmony. But behind these smooth words lie restrictions that directly affect those who keep the biblical Sabbath and proclaim the truth about the mark of the beast. History repeats itself. There was a time when being faithful to the Bible meant facing imprisonment, exile, and even death. Now, new, carefully crafted legislation will attempt to force everyone to follow a common pattern of worship, a pattern defined not by the Word of God, but by human authorities. And once again, Adventists will be at the forefront of defending freedom of conscience, standing before governments and nations that only Christ is Lord of our faith. Step 5. Sunday Law and Forced Silence. The last step is the most dangerous and definitive, making it illegal to preach the biblical Sabbath and the third angel's message. The Sunday Law will emerge as the perfect solution. It will promote rest, unity, and order, but in practice, it will force everyone to worship on Sunday, under penalty of sanctions. Rome plans to use this law as the final instrument to silence the only voice that still challenges the system, the voice of Adventists. Revelation 13 verses 15 to 17 already warned about this moment. Those who refuse to worship the beast or accept its mark will be persecuted and deprived of their means of livelihood. But it is in this extreme scenario that the Adventist faith shines brightest. While they try to silence the church, God will show who truly remains faithful, and the message that should be silenced will spread even further, crossing borders, languages, and generations. The world may try to force us to be silent, but no human decree will ever erase the truth that God has entrusted to this people. The Adventist response. Story after story shows that every time the world has tried to silence God's people, they have risen up even stronger. When temples were closed, they gathered in homes. When Bibles were banned, they were copied and distributed in secret. When leaders tried to intimidate the faithful, God raised up courageous witnesses to proclaim the truth without fear. Today is no different. Even in the face of Rome's final 5 steps, Adventists remain steadfast, preaching in thousands of cities and countries, carrying the message that disturbs human power but pleases heaven. Every obstacle, every attempt to silence the Adventist voice, strengthens the conviction that the mission is divine. They can close doors, they can try to silence the voice, but they can never erase the courage, faith, and commitment of a people who keep God's commandments and the faith of Jesus. They can try to silence us, but the message will continue to echo until everyone hears heaven's call. The clock of history does not stop. Every step of Rome is already underway, and the plan to silence Adventists is nearing its final execution. The question is not if it will happen, but when. And the question that remains for each of us is, when that day comes, which side will you be on? Now, more than ever, is the time for steadfastness, courage, and faithfulness. Every prayer, every study of the Word, every message shared counts. Because the truth that God has entrusted to the Seventh-day Adventist Church cannot be silenced by human hands. Revelation 14 verse 12 reminds us, "Here is the patience of the saints, here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus." It is time to stand firm. It is time to rise up. Prophecy is being fulfilled before our eyes, and the world will see that no power, no decree, can ever silence those who speak in the name of the Creator. If you feel the weight of these last steps and want to stand firm in the truth, like this video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and share this message. Every action you take helps keep alive the light that cannot be extinguished.